Alright, so spoilers for a Netflix quest in the background, and really going to be just hammering really at not just, individuals when it comes down to certain individuals when it comes down to, Genshin's content creation side or anything like that. When it comes down to it, it's going to be really just focused on everything and everybody that's a part of the gacha space and really just gaming space as a whole and people that just enjoy stories. But I pretty much accepted Genshin for what it is. Am I crazy for saying that? Like, I've pretty much accepted what the devs absolutely want Genshin to be. At the end of the day, Genshin is not going to be this overly crazy ass savior of all video games. It's not going to necessarily deliver on all fronts in the way you want it to be. It's not going to do anything like that. It's going to be what it is, Genshin Impact. What do I mean by this? Basically, I've been seeing, really last night, a lot of people going out their way to, I feel like, critique the game, and that's perfectly fine if that's what you want to do. Go ahead and just talk about what they want to see, how they want to, see the story kind of go in certain directions, and how characters is, how the gameplay is, everything of the sort when it comes down to it. And this is something that has been building up in me for, a few months now to want to talk about this, but never really had the chance to. But when it comes down to it though, I do feel like lots of people have all of these expectations of the game. When I'm just sitting here back like this, I'm like, wow, y'all really have all these expectations, but you're not getting anything. I hate to quote the man that said this quote, but it's like, I hope you get everything that you want, and it's nothing like you asked for. That's essentially what it feels like when it comes to Genshin, right? Because when it comes down to it, so many people, every step of the way, has expectations of what they want to see change and things of the sort like that, trying to critique it and be critical of the games and whatever. But ultimately, when they get mad when things don't happen, it's like, yeah, of course it wasn't gonna happen. Like, that's just kind of what Genshin is. That's not the direction that they wanted to go with that game, right? Honestly, one of the biggest lessons that I can honestly give you is keep your expectations of things low as hell, low as the bar can possibly go. Because once you have that expectation low as I don't know what, you can never really truthfully be disappointed if you never had any expectations of a thing in the first damn place. High key, if you just had that at the lowest that you could possibly go, you're not going to be all that depressed or sad or mad or all that sort of energy and whatever when it comes to things like Genshin. And then when they actually do something good and accurate, then hell yeah, you're going to be feeling a bit nice. Your expectation can rise a tiny bit. Not much, but a tiny bit. So that's really good, right? That's how it should be. At least to me, that's how it is. And if you don't think that's a life that's worth, kind of living, having low expectations of everyone and everything, it is what it is. It's how I've been striving for a long ass time, right? Be pleasantly surprised by other people when they come through, and it's just a nice time. That's just how it is for me, and that's probably not going to change unless I'm proven wrong, and that's not how life should be. But that's a whole nother thing that we can talk about a bit later. Let me start off with like the gameplay, right? People have always asked, hey, can you take off the talent material days so we can just farm whenever the hell we want to? Hey, can you maybe add an extra 40 to the resin so we can get some more out this hoe? Hey, could you possibly maybe, improve the gacha wishing system and how it is? Could you possibly do something when it comes down to an artifact loadout, a skip button, all of this sort of stuff? These are all good ideas. These are all nice ideas that people have criticized Genshin for not necessarily implementing and all this sort of stuff. And I do think if you criticize something when it comes down to it, as long as it's valid criticism, that's perfectly fine. Do what you feel like you want to do. But at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you right now, they've probably seen these sort of things be asked, but they don't really care to do so. More so, I should probably say, not a lot of people is maybe demanding for this sort of thing, right? Keep in mind, this is a Chinese video game. This is putting their home base first. They're going to care about the Chinese player base and maybe the Japanese player base and their Eastern player bases far more than they are going to care about some people that is English speakers, people within the West. So whatever type of thing that we would like to see Genshin do, we would like to see Genshin become, 9 times out of 10, they're probably not going to listen to us unless it's that rare one occasion where they absolutely do. And if it's not what China is asking for, or Japan, or whatever other places is over there, most of the time they're gonna take your request, chuck it over their shoulder, and be like, what request? Because that's how it is. Literally, if the most majority of people are not asking for certain things or asking for stuff that, everybody can collectively fully agree on, then 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna, turn out well. It's not gonna be a good time, honestly. Hell, to be honest, when it comes down to things, even of the English VAs, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I feel like if it wasn't for some of the China bros to step in to be like, hey, could y'all fix some of that? When it comes down to it, we probably would still have some bum ass VAs amongst the ranks of good VAs that's out there, right? Can I be absolutely real? That is how I feel when it comes down to what they actually look towards, right? Because at the end of the day, they sure as hell do not pay attention to us, high key. They pay attention more so to their own home base, if anything. Because we already know, if something happens and the government has to get involved, Hoyoverse is going to have to bend that knee to the players and absolutely do what they need to do to cook as well as they possibly can to serve and satisfy their home-based player base. Anybody else, no one really sits here and care, unless it's like a major bug on their parts, and maybe that's affecting gameplay, and that's like a whole issue that everybody's experienced. Again, then yeah, they'll probably step in, but outside of that, they ain't gonna sit here and care that hard. Even when they ask you via surveys, that might just be a grain of salt. Yes, you could very much say, oh, I want guilds and all that sort of stuff, and because that would be kind of cool, and leaderboards and all this sort of stuff. But let's just be absolutely real. If it's not mostly what everybody is asking for, it's probably not going to be included in the game. Let's just be absolutely real for 5 seconds. If you are somebody that asks for that, and that's not a bad idea to have that in the game, by the way, I'm just going to straight up say it, you're probably part of the 5% of people that's playing the game, right? You're probably part of maybe like the 20% of people that is playing the game, and not the overall majority of everything else, right? There's probably other stuff that, other people in the Eastern countries probably would want more faster than things like a leaderboard or a guild or things of sort like that. I bet if you asked, like, if a petting mechanic in the game would be necessary versus something else, I feel like a petting mechanic would actually be more quicker and implemented into the game than there is going to be anything of actually doing something with the talent daily locks and anything like that, or the resin system or a skip button. Those things are just not going to happen. You'll be pleasantly surprised if it does, and that'll be great. But at the end of the day, I don't see that happening. Just the same way how they just didn't do anything with the artifact actual loadouts. That's just not going to be on the cards, because I feel like maybe just a lot of people just do not care about the idea of having an artifact loadout. Originally, I didn't really care too much about having an artifact loadout. I get the handiness of it, but ultimately, maybe that's just not the concern of a lot of people that plays the game over in the East. So let's just be real, a lot of the time when it comes to complaints like these, it's just gonna basically fall on deaf ears. And sometimes the devs will just be a head ass and not necessarily, think about it and listen themselves. But when it comes down to it, I do feel like most of it will probably just be, yeah, whatever request you have, yeah, we don't really care. Let's just go ahead and toss it to a corner, and maybe we might think about it. But that's not the only thing I wanted to ramble and rant about. There is also people that very much complain about Genshin's story and how it is. And this is where the most of the meat of the conversation is going to be, because I'm not going to sit here and lie, this is the thing that aggravates me the most. When it comes down to it, I'll talk about Nefa's quest real quick. I liked it. I think it was actually pretty good. I think they're learning a little bit. They're starting to do stuff from Skirk's quest that actually feel like, pacing is very good, not wasting time, or at least feel like it's a waste of time, right? Because the character quest was about the character with Nefa, Yes, you had NPCs and other characters involved, but it did feel like this quest was to focus more so on Nefa, right? And yes, you could very much argue the point that, oh, it doesn't really feel like a Nod Cry prequel quest or anything like that. But honestly, when has these interludes and prequel quests ever really felt like that? Hell, even when it came down to something like the Natlan interlude quest, when it came down to Capitano and Eon-san and all that sort of stuff, did it really feel like it was just like, oh, we're about to ramp it up, like, oh, it's about to start setting up some crazy stuff? No, not really. Like, sure, there was stuff there, but it wasn't necessarily anything like that. And at this point, you should kind of understand that that's just Genshin's flow. It's not going to do anything overly crazy in interlude quests. They are interlude quests for a reason. They wouldn't specifically said, hey, this is a crazy ass quest if it wasn't going to be, you know, like specifically crazy. You know, it's just basically getting from one point to another point to maybe explain a bit more what's going on in the backgrounds and everything like that. And that is just how it is. That is GG's, that is their plan, that is what they cooked up. It is what it is. And from where Genshin has started, just the overall look of story quests and how they've been done in just Archon quests and everything in totality, they have improved a lot. Like, now they're starting to actually let characters, you know, do a bit of picking up of certain objects, having certain animations where they can actually grab onto things and maybe pose a bit differently than they usually would, which is great. Granted, again, critiquing time, it shouldn't took 5 years, but you know, it is what it is when it comes down to it. They're at least starting to do something. You know, they'll do things on, like, and that's kind of like a trend for Genshin. They'll do things on occasion, trying to see what actually can be maybe slightly improved, and then they'll just chill off for like a few minutes, and then they'll kind of do something again similar to that. Like, they started adding sound effects to missions and whatever, which is honestly kind of cool. Something that's been needed and kind of was teased within the whole thing with Capitano and Vernova. So I like that a lot. But overall, they basically been cooking certain things up, and it's nice to see, right? Ultimately, though, there is that parts of the fandom and part of people that do extremely just nothing really but critiquing the game and what it is, story-wise especially. And when it comes down to it, it's usually along the terms of, man, it'll be nice if they actually pace this a bit more and a bit better, like another game like Wuwa, or oh, it would be actually better if they had, you know, characters walking around constantly and doing a lot of other stuff. And oh man, you could say this the same thing about the combat, how crazy the animations are, and the flowiness and the parryness and on all this other stuff. So great that Wuwa has, or these other games has. And I wish Genshin was like that. I wish Genshin was basically that. And ultimately, you're asking for something that isn't going to happen, right? Once again, that expectation, number one, should be low. But also number two, that isn't Genshin Impact. That's not what it is. And for certain, that's not what the devs want the game to be. Genshin is the first game of its kind to really hit the market the way it did, to absolutely just bombard people in their lives. People's first gacha game, I'm gonna be real, my gacha game, the first real deal gacha game. Yes, sure, Union Cross for Kingdom Hearts, that doesn't really count. But when it comes down to it though, this is people's first gacha experience, and this is just how they are experiencing it. This is how it's going. This is how it is. What we are currently experiencing is what Genshin is and what it wants to be for itself and its audience. Ultimately, if you want another game and it's feeling to kind of jump into Genshin, play that other game, right? There has been no end to the comparisons between Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact, and boy howdy, I do feel like a lot of people smell too much of that Wuthering Waves powder and then try to apply it to literally everything, thinking that it's the best fit, it's the best thing to see. Yes, can Genshin absolutely improve? Absolutely. It is a rich ass company that should be able to do a lot of things. However, I wouldn't want them to implement literally everything about another game to get chucked into this game. I want Genshin to do its own thing. I want Genshin to stand on its own 2 feet, to absolutely brave its own waters, however it decides to do so, right? Yes, the combat in Wuwa can feel very good at times. Yes, the stories can be very much on a high-end level, and yes, they can be very serious tone stories when it comes down to it. The whole game feels serious. Genshin does not. Genshin has those moments where it doesn't necessarily feel all that serious, or somehow it just doesn't necessarily, do it all the time. And you know what? I'm okay with that. And you know what? To be even more so purposely personal with you, I kind of like that. I kind of like that Genshin isn't overall serious all the time. I feel like a lot of people, especially content creators, that get disappointed when it comes down to Genshin's story, or at least when it comes down to how they kind of showcase certain things, I feel like they come from a background where they absolutely love serious, dark, in-depth tone stories that is just taking everything serious, or a lot of things serious, and just must be that. It must be that. I want to see challenging stuff constantly, all the time, right? And I'm not that type of person. In fact, there's a lot of people that don't really care for that type of thing, right? It's the reason why I really don't anymore watch a lot of ongoing anime shows and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, a lot of those shows are good. I'm not going to take away from that, but at the same time, I don't really care for a lot of the serious tone and nature for it, right? Don't get me wrong, I love a serious story. I love, when plot gets real and plot gets heavy and certain things are attempted, right? Like I said, for Lova's quest in Wuwa was amazing. I think that jump was peak. It was absolutely great. But then it brings up that level of like, oh, this shit is a little too serious, to the point when you start doing events around Frolova, or at least the current event that's going on with the whole little minigame that she's doing, I kind of get weirded out, because it's like, why is Frolova they're trying to have Frolova to have fun, or look like a character that's supposed to have fun in this moment, or why is that? She's a serious character, a villain character, and at the end of the day, you want to portray her as a Alice in Wonderland looking chick? Why? I thought Wuwa was serious. And that's kind of like the problem with Wuthering Waves for me. It's like, yes, the tone and the vibe of the game and the story is absolutely serious, and I get that, and that's perfectly fine. But overall, when you have lighthearted moments and things like that, I don't care for it that much. I don't really like that sort of direction, right? And to be absolutely honest with you, the best moments in Wuthering Waves to me is when the characters aren't bogged down by a story. Lupa is an absolutely great example. I love the hell out of me some Lupa, not just out of design wise, but just character wise. Because character wise, she's actually, just like a warrior that absolutely beat ass, that is strong as shit, that just absolutely know how to cook. And it's just great. The first half of that story was amazing, foregoing certain elements. But when it comes down to it, Lupa herself as a character is amazing, and and honestly, I really just like that. It's perfect when it comes down to it. However, Lupa's story takes a dip for me when you start adding like the overall story elements, like, oh, she's trapped in a story and her role has been stolen and things like that, and it turns into stuff I don't know or don't really care about, much less, it turns into stuff that it's just like, whoa, where does this come from? It's like it's hidden like a left turn somewhere, in all that sort of ways, right? Lupa as a character, as she kind of go throughout the tournament trying to, prove that there was wrongdoing here, yes, that was peak, that was cool. But then we start bogging story with them and try to make them go through the overall story of what's happening, it's not that good. Or at least I don't really care for it that much personally, and that's just how it is. And I can say the very same thing with someone like Carter Thea. Carter Thea is absolute queen. She looks very damn good. Her personality is also something I really damn like. She's just a go-getter type girl. I like that about her. However, when you start implementing so much of the other part of her story, when it comes down to overall plot and everything of the world, I don't care. It just does not feel that for me. It just does not feel that void for me when it comes down to it, right? Characters is easily some of the most important things when it comes down to a story in a game and everything in general. If you do not have that, basically you don't have characters. You can't have a character if they don't have a character. That's just how it is. Like, I'm not gonna lie, Wuwa is a fantastic game. However, when you start chucking story to characters and that's kind of just been the thing for them and kind of just bogging them down with that and not letting the character themselves breathe, I don't really care, right? Maybe it's still that 1.0-ness that I don't really like that's still bogging my mind, but at the very same time, it's just how it is for me. Now let's go to Genshin for example. Yes, there is a lot of times where Genshin storytelling will have boring moments for a lot of people, where there's not a lot of things happening and all that sort of jazz, right? But here's the thing, I care more so how they present the characters in the story in Genshin more than I could about characters within Wuwa, right? At least in terms of the level of how they go about it, because those boring moments, quote unquote, that a lot of people don't like in a Nefa story quest, if it wasn't there, I would not have cared for the character nearly as much as I do. And ultimately, again, they're trying to sell you on the character. You can have all the cool overall story stuff that you want in terms of the overall plot, but ultimately, that's a boring ass story. If you're not necessarily having emotional ties to characters, which is the damn point half the time, especially for a gacha game, it's important to have that. If you're not caring about the characters at all, then it's like you're missing a crucial and ultimately a vital piece to the game, right? It's just how it is. Yes, and Nefa had a moment where, you know, she was basically just doing her average daily life. No one was really, you know, happening with anything. There was no major conflict in the middle section of the quest too much, and it was what it was, right? Until it started to pick up when, you know, the Futui started to show themselves a bit more. And that's just how it is. You need those slow moments. You need to showcase, hey, it isn't just go, 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 because that shit, one, can be very much overwhelming, and that shit can just be just nothing but story. It must be serious. It must be this, and this. And ultimately, it's not true. It's not true to not only just the characters, but even to real life. Your real life is not a constant mess of just go, 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 go. It's also slow moments as well. It's also moments where things is boring at times. And that's just how it is, right? Ultimately, I don't personally mind those slow moments because it gives you more reasons to see how the character actually interacts, how they normally usually is, and things of the sort like that, right? That's just how it is. What things like filler and things of how they go about filler is important for a reason. Plenty of people get tired of things like a beach episode, or hate sometimes filler episodes that has literally nothing to do with advancing the plot. But at the same time, it just shows more of that character fleshed out in a different sort of way. Maybe not progressing a whole ass story, but it shows what that character likes to do in their environment. And I think that's also very important, because for all we know, hell, Nefa could have just, if we were to skip all that middle section and just go straight to the end and just do story, you don't care about Nefa. You wouldn't care about pulling for her that bad, right? Outside of maybe gameplay purposes, but you wouldn't care about pulling for a Nefa if we just focus on story alone. But because you have those sections in there, you might actually care a little bit more, right? Sure, you might feel like it could be potentially a waste of time, but it's there for a necessary reason for you to get attached to said character. The same way with Dear Death, with the whole quest with Dainsel that we just had last patch, right? If people were to have their way and cut out a lot of the sections with Dear Death and really do what they wanted to do when it comes down to it, I do feel like that shit would be the most unsatisfying quest of all time. If they just went from go, 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 it is a terrible quest. It's not paced out right. It's not gonna be good, right? At the ultimate cost of just the story, Dear Diff would suffer a lot, and we wouldn't even really care that she turned into a Hillish girl at the end of the quest, or ultimately find out that that's what happened to her. The reason why I feel like it hits a lot more is because, yo, the character was with us. We got to learn a bit more about that character, how they are, kind of how they is. And sure, they might be an NPC, and ultimately they're not going to matter in a few couple of like minutes or an hour or so. But ultimately, we can care about them because, oh, we spent some time with that character. We actually understand that character a bit more than just, go, go, go. And that's just how it is. My point is that Genshin has those slow down moments for a reason. It's slowed down because Characters ain't just straight up always on the move to the next thing. Yes, there is important things to be needed, but at the very same time, there is moments where characters just need to breathe. I felt this exact same way when it came down to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I was like, yo, Sephiroth is gonna bomb the entire planet with a whole meteor. We need to absolutely get our asses to find his ass immediately. But you know what the game did instead? They made us go to Golden Saucer. They made us go to the whole place with the beach and all that sort of stuff and have fun there, where we're kind of just like the race against the clock to save the world, yet we're out here doing chocobo races. Why? And the crackhead inside me is kind of just like, dude, the planet is going to get yeeted by materia, of the black materia, of the meteorite, if we don't do nothing. Why are we out here drinking tea, having a latte, like nothing matters? Because that's not how real life is. That's not how a character realistically would be, you know? Like, things ain't necessarily, again, on the go sort of standpoint. It's going to have moments where characters are going to just chill out for 5 seconds, joke around and all that sort of stuff, right? Even someone that might be burdened with so much trouble in real life, even they're gonna have moments where they slow down and take a breather. They're gonna have to eat at some point. They're gonna have to go to sleep, take a bath, or whatever the hell, right? And then sometimes you get people that be on that very much unnecessary cracked energy, where they just want to basically be like, all right, if that's the case, then I want to see every point of their life, because I'm gonna get mad and start throwing out criticisms and get frustrated with the game when they don't showcase why this thing didn't happen here or this other thing didn't happen there. Because you don't need to see everything. Could you imagine writing a story trying to showcase every bit of detail to that damn story and then trying to, you know, tell it at the same time? It's impossible. You're gonna have to omit some details of how certain characters is and how certain things played out, because that's just not, if it's not important to the story, it's not important to the story, and that's just how it is. Genshin, in their way of doing things, is yes, we have a serious story that we want to tell. We want people to understand that yes, what is happening right now is a big deal. But then also at the same time, look at this cute ass penguin. Do you like a penguin or not? And that's kind of just how it is, right? So ultimately, you don't really need every bit of moment of life to be the absolute most serious thing of all time. But at the end of the day, just showcase that yes, serious things are happening, but also give them room to breathe, give them room to be characters, to be people. Because at the end of the day, again, if you're not working on character and actually letting them develop the way that they should, then it's not really gonna character right. Wuwa and Genshin are very good games, but they need to just make sure that their balancing act is very good and on par in what they need to do. And when they do it right, we'll congratulate them. And when they do it wrong, we won't congratulate them. We'll criticize, and that's perfectly fine. But also, one thing you need to also remember is just the fact that Genshin is going to do what Genshin does, and Wuthering Waves is going to do what Wuthering Waves does. I'll try to wrap it up, but I'll see what happens though. But my point of what I'm trying to basically say out of everything is just, and I'm probably even forgetting stuff, but it's just, Genshin and their devs have a specific route of where they want to go. It's like what the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth devs said before, you know, they released the game. How they take in player feedback, but only to a point, and then they stick to their path and do what they need to do. Because constantly changing the game plan, constantly changing the game is bad news. It's a bad time, and you won't get anything done if you can't stick to a single plan. So ultimately, you're just going to have some type of faith in what you're creating, and then just go ahead and hope people will enjoy it for what it is. You know, plenty of people online, content creators especially, take their whole lives way too seriously when it comes down to an effing gacha game. It is not necessarily that serious. At the end of the day, it is a story that they're trying to tell, and if it doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out. If it does work out, it works out, and that's perfectly fine, right? Hell, with my own damn story, I don't know what the hell I'm doing half the time. Half the time, if not majority, I'm winging it. But if I can attach it to some other cool detail from the past, that's excellent. I wasn't thinking about that, but that's excellent. That's cool. That's not even good storytelling. That's just me winging it. That's just how it is, and the subconscious mind just takes over and do what it needs to do. But ultimately, it's going to go down the route of what it wants to do by its creator's hand, not by anybody else's and what they suggest and things like that. It's what the creator decides is best for the game, what is best for their story, and best for their characters. And to be honest, for the most part, I don't think I would have it any other way. Right? Like, yes, there is going to be things that, yes, Genshin could do better and things of sort like that, but I want Genshin to be Genshin. I want Wuthering Waves to be Wuthering Waves and other gacha games to be their own games. I don't want to see one game trying to copy another and what they do good and try to outclass that one, because tribalism of gacha will never die if that continues to happen, if that honestly is the thing. It's like console wars. The fact that people are basically going over different gacha games and saying which one's better and all that sort of stuff, it's really ridiculous and it's really dumb. And what's making it even more alive than ever is when people constantly compare games into, oh man, Wua does this better and Wuthering Waves is so much better in this certain era than Genshin is, and all this sort of stuff. The damn thing will never die if people keep comparing it in that sort of way. And the only real true way of just not having that to be a thing anymore, it's just accepting that Genshin is going to do what it's going to do. At the end of the day, it's not necessarily anything that we can sit here and control when it comes down to it, right? And again, I would rather Genshin be itself than a clone of what Wuthering Waves is, which will also make Genshin a laughingstock in what it actually is. Genshin thrives itself on its world, its colorfulness, not taking everything too seriously all at once and doing what it wants to do, right? Making bad decisions and good decisions along the damn way. And that's what Genshin really is. It is a mess of a game that is beautiful all at the same time to get people to care for characters, whether it's in their slow moments or in their coolest moments in their finest hour. At the end of the day, it is a video game. It is supposed to drive home, I would imagine, having fun first before trying to do anything else. And ultimately, if it doesn't include anything that you wanted in the game, then that's perfectly fine. You should be, still critiquing it, and that's perfectly fine, but also accept that Genshin might just stick this way. It might just stay that way, and that's just how it is, and there's no reason to really trip over it or even be having high expectations of things. Nodcry could be the most beautiful land of all things. I seen one beautiful thing, a certain statue of a certain person that just looks just fine as all hell, but when it comes down to it though, it might not necessarily be as good as people crack it up to be, right? And the devs crack it up to be. That's why my expectations, while yes, I am very much excited, I'm just going to keep it low, because at the end of the day, it's not necessarily something I'm expecting to be, the ultimate of ultimates when it comes to Genshin's story, its characters and everything like that. You know what I really come here for when it comes down to Genshin? I just hope the game keeps my retention and just keeps my attention to play the game constantly, and that it's good. And I think that's really what it is for most people. As long as the video game or media that I am playing right now is good and it's keeping my attention, who the hell cares? At the end of the day, I'm still going to come back later and play it again. And if that's what it's doing and it does it well, then I'm still going to be here playing the game. It could take away certain mechanics from the game or, restrict certain things. That's perfectly fine, as long as it's still keeping my attention to play the game and it's still something that I want to see through to the absolute end. That is how it is for most people. As long as they get their shit when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, does all the extra bonuses and all the extra stuff really effing matter? That's really about it, right? As long as you still feed people rewards and as long as you still give people what they want, it is what it is. People will very much be fine with a mediocre, experience than the most high level, high end experience. Because sometimes the mediocre experience is the best experience that you could possibly have, and the high end experience might be the one that be set like a damn downfall, right? That's just how it is, So ultimately, my point is Genshin is what it is, and that's just okay, at least in my mind. Is there things I could improve upon? Absolutely. Is it going to happen? I don't know, and I have literally no expectations for it to do so. At the end of the day, it's going to tell its story however it's going to tell its story. There's no reason to be going off and crazy about it as people often do. Content creators a lot of the time too, and it's very annoying when they do that. There is no reason for you to absolutely just be, kicking rocks when it comes down to its combat and how good another game is, because it's going to do its combat the way it wants to do its combat, right? At the end of the day, it needs its own flavor and not another games to come through and try to change that up for what it is. Ultimately, again, Genshin Impact is Genshin Impact, and for me personally, I pretty much accept it for what it is, right? As long as it still can bring out the best characters of the game and what it can do and make me care and still have emotional responses like it has with Baiju's quest, like it has with so much other parts of the games, like a damn Kingdom Hearts game at this point, because that's just how it is to me. It's just like a Kingdom Hearts game. But when it comes down to it though, as long as it still gets those responses from me and it keeps my attention and I love the game and its characters and its world and everything about it, then I got no complaints mostly. I have basically no complaints when it comes down to how it needs to be or my expectations, because Genshin is gonna Genshin. That's basically the whole dang point. But yeah, this probably isn't everything I wanted to say, but this is mostly, I guess, what I wanted to say. Basically, I just wanted to yap about this because I am so tired of people critiquing the game, wanting the game to be something it's not going to ever be, and they still get mad when the game doesn't end up being that way. It just isn't. It's just not gonna be it's just not gonna be a Wuthering Waves. It's not gonna be a Wuthering Waves. It's not gonna be a Nanta. It's not gonna be Silver Palace. It's not gonna be anything but what Genshin is. And if you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. Critique it as much as you like to, but don't get so obsessed with it. Because I feel like once you really critique something, like a story and the game and everything like it is for itself, I do feel like you're just ruining the game for you and how you experience it. Right? That's just how it is. And not everybody's going to be on the same level as you when it comes down to wanting certain things, or certain things is perfectly fine the way it is in your mind, but it's not for everybody else. Like hell, you know how many times I've seen people complain about Paimon and how it is for that character? Yes, she can be very slow. Yes, she is a character that, is very dumbed down for a lot of people. But when certain things happen where people start explaining stuff in the game that I'm not necessarily that smart to catch up to, then yes, Paimon coming through and dumbing it down for me is absolutely a key reason why we need Paimon here, right? That's literally the reason why Not Cry even is going to be a thing, because there is a lot of story quests that the lore keepers know, but a lot of other average people do not necessarily know. I know some of the story quests, but I don't know it's the absolute T, like it's the Holy Bible. I just don't know all of that stuff. And if I can have Paimon to break it down, or the devs themselves try to break it down to tell me, hey, this is what happened, and things are sort of like this, then I'll give Paimon a head pat with some cookies. Because at least at that point, I get it. I understand when it comes down to it now, versus not understanding it and just pretending like I do when it comes down to it. A lot of lore keepers might understand and get everything on the first try and guess basically the entire plot of the game perfectly fine. Me, on the other hand, along with a lot of other casual people that, just go about the game the way they want to, we need that extra bit of help, or it is what it is when it comes down to it. But anyway, again, I think that's everything I wanted to say and try to talk about. There's just so much about this situation, or at least this topic, that annoys me to no end, how people kind of go about certain things. But I'm gonna just cap it off there, because I don't want to spend all day just talking about it. But that's essentially all I got for this one, so hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also follow me on the socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's me, Boy J, signing off. Have a blessed day.